I love therapy, and in fact, I've been going to therapy since I was around 6 years old. Though I talk about therapy a lot and may interview some therapists on the show on occasion, nothing that is said in this podcast should be considered a replacement for therapy. If you are struggling, I urge you to please seek guidance from a therapist because you are absolutely worth it. Hello everyone, you are listening to Wine, Dine, and 69, a podcast about dating, relationships, sex, and self-love. I'm your host, Rachel Dalton, loving the spring weather that we are having up here in the Northern Hemisphere. And you know, I didn't intend for there to be a segue into kind of what I was going to talk about, but I kind of want to talk about not the weather, but just spring and nature and hopefulness and all of those things that go along with it. So let's get into that. Spring has always been my favorite season. I just find it to be so hopeful, and you know, having the light and the sun and the longer days. I don't know, it's my favorite time of year, even though my allergies are like fucking insane during the springtime. I swear, I have gone through the last 2 years not getting sick at all because I've been, you know, so some people would say crazy. I say careful. But I haven't gotten sick at all. And then my allergies come and like fucking bulldoze me over. It's insane. Anyway, nature, the weather. A few months ago, I was in New York with my brother, and he and I were discussing a New York Times article about all walks. And I've kind of been trying to incorporate that into my life a little bit more. All walks are this, I'll link the article in the episode notes. All walks are going for a walk and trying to look at things with a fresh perspective, and doing that makes you feel a little more hopeful, or like you have a little bit more of understanding of the world around you. And it kind of goes along with, you know, something that I saw on social media a few weeks ago about finding the glimmers in your everyday life. You know, we hear a lot about triggers, but the opposite of that is a glimmer. What are those things that bring you like joy in the deepest part of your heart? What are the things that make you feel connected to the world around you? The things that make you feel intense joy. And I'm finding that, you know, all walks, or I guess in my case, it's all drives. You know, I've been driving with my sunroof down and taking long routes home through winding roads. And it's been so good for my mental health. I've been really, really happy. And finding those glimmers has been easier, much easier. So let me know, like, what your all walks are like. What are your glimmers? I would love to know. You know, the different things that bring you joy in your day-to-day life, and how the weather change, how the season change, and how just being able to be outside has affected that. So yeah, let me know. On that same note, you know, I don't know if anybody has tried randonauting before. It's this app, and you set an intention, and then the app spits out some random coordinates. You go there and you just kind of explore, and it's supposed to somehow relate to your intention. I did it once a couple of years ago when I was visiting with my parents down in Virginia. We all kind of met down there to have a little bit of a vacation away from the pandemic and everything. And it was such a cool experience then. And so a friend and I decided to try it this past weekend. We set in the intention of understanding, and it sent us to Valley Forge. And for those who don't know, you know, American history very well, Valley Forge is a battlefield. It was really beautiful. You know, the sun was beginning to set. There were all these winding roads, and it was like open fields with like little pockets of woods and like little old log cabins and whatever. It was a really cool experience, but we were both puzzled, at we put in understanding, and it brings us to a site of death where people, my friend, she said, it's a mass grave. And we were both like, what? I was a little freaked out. But the more I thought about it, I don't know, the more it made sense that the overall lesson here, the thing that we needed to understand, we are both very anxious people who get into our heads a lot. And the thing that we needed to understand was that life is really short, and there are some things that just don't matter as much as we think that they do. And yeah, I think we both, have come back into our week with a little bit more of a fresh perspective on that. It was really beautiful. We walked around, we looked at some of the historical markers, read about the different sites, and watched the sunset. And it was really a beautiful experience that, again, reminded us to look at things with a new perspective and made us feel really hopeful. So spring has been obviously very transformative for me personally this year. If it has been for you too, let me know. I would love to know. The last thing I wanted to cover is, all these topics relate to each other beautifully. I couldn't have planned it better myself. I posted about this on TikTok and on Instagram. When I had this realization last week, I was driving on one of my odd drives, and this thought occurred to me, this quote, and it is this: true self-love is prioritizing what your soul needs over what your ego wants. And for some reason, that particular phrasing clicked with me. It made me start to be kinder to myself and see things from a different perspective. And really, my self-love game has been so strong lately. It really has been. So self-love, is often something that I talk about on here because it's paramount to all the other relationships that you have in your life. But I think that it can be difficult a lot of the time because you're also your own worst critic. So I've often, I'm really good at self-care and the massages and the face masks and, the power naps and the masturbating, all of those, self-indulgent things. But, when it comes down to really doing the work, I resist it. I do it, of course, but I resist it. And lately I've been seeing the beauty in doing the hard and the difficult work. So I don't know. I think that's pretty fucking cool. I've been happy. I've been really happy taking it all in and looking at things with a new gaze, I guess. And spring has been really great for that. So follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. Let me know what the glimmers and the transformative experiences that spring has brought you have been in your life at winedine@allportsopen.com. So yeah, now, after all of that, we're going to talk about sex. I'm so excited. This interview came at the exact perfect time. Today I'm going to be talking to Jeff Abraham. He is the CEO of Promescent, which is a sexual wellness company. And I loved talking to Jeff. We have so much fun in this conversation. We talk about the different products. We talk about sex education. We talk about understanding your partner. It's a hoot. We had so much fun, and I hope that you enjoy it too. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'm going to cut to a quick commercial break, and then we're going to get into the interview. I hope you enjoy Jeff as much as I did. He's a really cool guy, and yeah, I think you're going to learn some really cool things in this one. So with all of that being said, please enjoy my conversation with Jeff.
What is it, honey?
It's that darn ghost again. He just won't leave us alone. I guess we're just going to have to move.
No, wait. Don't worry. We're not moving. He is.
Who are you going to call?
Blockbusters. Actually, we know nothing about catching ghosts other than what we saw in that old cartoon. But if you want a podcast where we talk about film, TV, random tangents that leave you wondering what the hell was that all about, and the occasional nugget of wisdom, then we're the ones for you. And if you act now, you can listen to our entire back catalogue for free.
Did you say free?
Yes, I did. So go now to your nearest podcatching device, shake off the ectoplasm, and download us today. Warning, listening to Blockbusters can lead to stomach cramps from laughing, headaches from attempting to remember what tangent they went on this time, and a worn-out section of your device's screen/keyboard as you smash the replay button over and over until the next episode arrives. If your Blockbusters episode lasts longer than 4 hours, tell your doctor so he can listen as well.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wine Dine 69. I'm here. I was panicking for a second because we were having some technical difficulties. Well, I was having some technical difficulties. But I'm super excited to be here with my guest today, Jeff Abraham of Promescent. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm in sunny Summerlin, Nevada, 71 degrees and not a cloud in the sky.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. That's not where I At least I'm not, my home is in Michigan. That's where I'm from originally. And it's much colder there than it is in Pennsylvania. So
yes.
But yeah, super excited to talk to you. Was super excited to get samples of the things that you create, the brand that you have. So let's kind of start with you just kind of telling me a little bit about you, about who you are, and what you do.
I am someone who was born and raised back in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, made the cross-country trek to Southern California at age 24, and got a job in the semiconductor industry. Semiconductors are integrated circuits, computer chips. They used to refer to them as computer chips, but now they're in cell phones, cars, they're in absolutely everything, microwaves, television, so they went to integrated circuits. I worked in the integrated circuit business for about 10 years and then founded my own corporation. It was a placement firm both for temporary and permanent employees in semiconductor manufacturing. Very fortunate, right place, right time, and was able to retire early at 53 back in 2011.
Oh, the dream.
Yeah, it was everybody's dream. My next door neighbor also happened to be my friend and my doctor. He was a urologist, and one day I went in to see him for my yearly PSA. He said, "Hey, I developed this product. I think it's a great product, but it's not moving like I think it should. I really respect you as a business person. Can you give me your opinion?" I said, "Yeah."
Ooh, okay.
Turns out the product was our original product, which was Promescent delay spray.
Okay.
And, he was very high on it, and I knew he was a straight shooter, and I started asking him questions, and it sounded like a very legitimate product. So I asked him for a sample, and I took it home and tried it out and went, "Oh my God, this actually works." So one thing led to another. I invested in the company. I was bored because I had retired and I was a single dad and my son had left for college. So, I was really in the mode of looking for something to do, at least part-time.
Sure.
So I wrote him a business plan, and the business plan was very sound and it worked, and the company started to grow, and they said, "Can you write us the next phase business plan?" I said, "Sure." So I did. They said, "Well, it's going to take a lot more capital." I said, "I'll invest another $400,000, but you have to do exactly what I tell you to do."
Yeah.
They did. The company really grew. They asked me to take over. And in 2012, I took over the company. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's bizarre considering, I had no medical background, no background in sexual wellness. Going from semiconductor engineering CEO to CEO of a sexual wellness company is quite the circuitous route. But it's turned out really well. We have thrived. We've done extremely well. We've added a number of products in the last couple of years. Each and every one has taken off because we have a mantra that we do not deviate from. We will not introduce a product unless what we have is as good, if not better, than everything else in that space. So people now look at us as a brand of sexual wellness and they come and get all their products. Mm-hmm. So we've been very, very fortunate in that regard. And we're growing, we're profitable. It's just been a really gratifying, rewarding journey.
No, absolutely. And you know what the coolest thing is I was in Target the other day and I like about had a conniption in the middle of the aisle because I was like, holy shit, like I'm gonna talk to that guy. It was a
We're in
very exciting
Target.
moment for me.
We're now in selective Walmarts. We're in GNC. We're everywhere, and we're succeeding everywhere we're at because the product works. It
Yeah.
really is a very solid, very good product. And when you go to our website, I took criticism early on because everybody has the same methodology. You put a bunch of stuff on the shelf, you do all kind of advertising, and you drive people to retail, and they buy it. What I decided to do was something a little bit different, which was make our website very educational, make our website something to where people came and they learned. And the reason it was important for me to do that was because we feel the most important thing for us is to make sure you're buying the right product for the right reason.
Yes.
And just as importantly, make sure you're using it correctly so that you get the best result.
Well, what I thought was really cool is when I was on your site, there's a quiz. That you take, that asks you questions and you say, these are the things that my partner and I are struggling with. These are the things, and it just asks great questions, about like how, if you are using lubricant, if, things are drier than they should be, if things are as hard as, you might want them to be, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's a lot of, great questions. And what I'm really excited to talk to you about, I mean, many things that I'm excited to talk to you about is just about the male experience and a lot of the, we hear a lot about how women deal with sex and the different, pains that we might have in the bedroom, but we don't hear as much about the men's emotional experience. We might hear about like the men's physical experience, but that translates to emotional experience too. And I'm really interested to get your brain about that.
Even as a man, that emotions aren't part of sex. You're either in denial or you're lying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's sex in our country, in our society in general, is something that is so tied up in both the psychological and physical aspects of it that you can't separate one without the other. It's a total experience. Part of it is there's so much porn now, and I'm glad that I'm 64 and I was born before there were cell phones and internet, so I got to have sex and be initiated into sex without ever having watched porn.
Right, yeah.
Right now, that if I was having my sexual awakening right now at 14 or 15, whatever I was at the time, and I already seen porn and everything else, I'd be the biggest giant ball of nerves ever created, because I would think that every male had a 10-inch penis that was the circumference of a beer can that they were, able to thrust for 45 minutes. And when they were about ready to finish, they jumped off, ran across the room, and shot their partner in the forehead with deadly accuracy,
That sounds like nightmares that I have, actually.
Yeah.
That sounds like the opposite of what I want.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's completely true. I mean, it has a mental impact on the way that people grow up sexually. And I think there's always, in addition to that, with porn, there's this idea that there's always more, right? Like, how can we get more taboo? And, that's, of course, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was sex as a taboo. But I guess, in relation to porn, there's almost this, like, how do we get more taboo? It's always, how do we push the limits more,
Yeah. I have to admit, for a guy who runs a sexual wellness company, I'm pretty mainstream, and part of the reason is oral sex, regular penetrative intercourse. Those kind of things have always worked for me, When I see people dragging Shetland ponies up to the room, you know what I mean? And all these other things. And, I'm like, I've never really felt the need to go there, because regular orgasms and stuff like that just seem to work really well for me,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I just haven't had enough sex yet. That I'm bored with it. It's still working very well, and I'm still very happy with traditional sexual roles. Now, that being said, we don't judge anyone. And
of course.
Everyone is free to experience whatever fantasy that, turns them on. But for me, mainstream, normal sexual activity is something that I desire and something that really is satisfying to me.
Yeah, it gets the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really and truly does. I've always told people, some cases when people are really looking outside the bounds, maybe it's because they haven't fully optimized the sex they're having within the bounds.
Mm, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. And, we're totally open. I do a lot of swinger podcasts and a lot of non monogamy podcasts, and I don't judge anyone. If it's
As long
between
as it's
consenting
consensual. Yep.
adults,
Yep.
have at it.
Yeah, go nuts. Have a safe word, have consent. You got the
Yes.
yes, an enthusiastic yes, then go nuts.
I think one of the reasons that, I've never gotten into the lifestyle myself is I've never been married.
Okay.
So I've never felt the constraints of when you're in a bad relationship, go, well, I got to ride this out. And, I have to live with this because it's too painful to get divorced. So having never been married and being 64 years old, and the majority of my relationships last about 3 years, I've had a number of partners. I've experienced a lot of different things. And I've never felt the drudgery of going, oh my God, I got to sleep with this person again, like for the 3,000th time. I applaud people that can stay happily married for 40 years to the same person and be totally monogamous. I don't understand how they do it, but I certainly applaud them.
Yeah.
That being said, now being 64, if I find the person of my dreams, I would not hesitate to be, married and live monogamously for the rest of my life. Because I feel like I've had a rich, full life and I've had a chance to experience many different things. But people that get married at 22 and stay completely true blue like 50, 60 years later, I'm like, how would you not just resent the way a person combs their hair, the way they breathe? Like, Jesus. I mean, when they say familiarity breeds contempt, they say for a reason. It does.
Yep. No, that's very true. That's very true. And I used to think, so I'm almost 32.
Yeah.
And I used to think when I was a teenager, I'd be like, I want to be a young mom. I want to get married at 21 and get pregnant by 25 and like have all of my babies before the age of 30. And like now I'm just like, Jesus, like Christ, what the fuck was I thinking? That sounds
God. You were literally starting a family before you even knew who you were, let alone who you're
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, hey, there are lots of people who, I know that I dated a guy who I think he eventually ended up getting married very, very young for religious reasons, and more power to.
We need to keep religion out of sex. It's very.
I mean,
very
that leads me.
I
that
know
leads me to ask you
people-
about sex ed.
I know people that got married to have sex.
Yep.
How could there be anything more illogical than that?
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea. I think it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And the thing is, how do you literally at 22 or 24 years old say I do? And, if you really are taking your vows seriously, go till death do us part. Because I know how much I've changed between the age of 25 and now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is literally insane. When I was 25 years old, I drank like a fish. I partied my ass off. I was a wild man. And in my 30s, I matured, became a father. I don't drink now, not because I've ever had addiction issues. I have diabetes, runs in my family. I have diabetes. So I made sure that I, was on this strict diet. But I invest, I exercise every day. My only exercise before was running into a happy hour, Now, I ride my bike 200 miles a week outdoors. I take hot yoga. I do Pilates, I lift weights. It's like anyone who would have found me remotely attractive then would have said, I love you. You're the wild child. Now they'd go, you're so freaking boring. I've just changed in so many ways. So for me, getting married before I was 30, 32, 35, if that person didn't change in exactly the same way that I changed, we would have been totally incompatible.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I've actually always viewed marriage as this idea that you're understanding that you're both going to change, and marriage is a promise that you're going to do your absolute best to try to communicate as you change separately, to try to be compatible as you change together.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, I'm proud of this. In my entire life, I'm 64, even though I've never been married. I've never cheated on anyone. Anytime I've been in a committed relationship, it's been a committed relationship. And if it doesn't work out, I don't cheat on someone, break
Right.
up and go find a new significant other.
Right.
Very
Right.
few of my friends, if any, have literally been married their entire lives and not had instances where they've strayed. And they laugh at me, oh, you're commitment phobic. I look at them and go, listen, I could be a hypocrite like you, or I could be like me and be real. I think I'll take being real.
Interesting. That's an
Yeah.
interesting viewpoint. Okay. Very interesting. I guess I want to kind of circle back to the religion and sex thing, because this kind of comes back to this topic of the taboo of sex, and let's talk sex ed. Sex ed in schools and sex ed. I mean, my sex ed was more or less a joke. I mean, when they discussed the topic of rape, they said, don't rape because if you do, here are the penalties that you'll face. It wasn't don't rape because consent is important. Don't rape because, people are human beings. It was don't rape because this is what will happen if you do.
Oh my God. Could there be
I
anything
know.
more destructive than that? Jesus.
Right.
Yeah, I remember my sex ed class when I was in high school, they separated the boys and girls.
Oh, that's a big mistake.
Made no sense to me because I go, if I have sex, it's going to be with a woman, and shouldn't we both be learning this together? And I remember our teacher, his name was Mr. Kohansky, when I was in, I think, 7th grade, literally took some Christmas lights and he took the plug and then he took the receptacle part and went, this is the man and this is the woman.
Oh no.
Are you kidding me? I was like sitting there going, what? Like, really?
Oh, that that reminds me, my one of my close friends, he went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
And his experience of sex ed was basically they had a chalkboard and they had, one of those like pointer things that they used to have, and there was like a flint or something in it. So there was a hole in the chalkboard and they stuck the they stuck the pointer in the hole in the chalkboard. And they said, see, this is what happens when God's not present. But then what they did is they moved the pointer, I guess. I don't know what it's actually called. And, because there was a flint, it actually sparked. And they said, when you're married and you have sex and God is present, there's a spark.
Well, I've never been married, and I know a lot of times I hear the word God thrown around like, oh, God, you know what I mean? I'm not sure. Maybe it's her calling out to him, you know what I mean? Making sure he's not in the room, just checking. Oh, God, okay, good, he's not here, I have to laugh at the Catholic Church because I'm not politically correct. I don't give a shit. I tell the truth, okay? Mm-hmm. I love them pontificating about sex and what's right and what's wrong. Hey, how about stop fondling altar boys, okay? Before you become the moral authority and start rhapsodizing about sex, why don't you clean your own house, okay? Why don't you take a look at your own clergy, and every time somebody gets caught fondling an altar boy, not transfer them to a different parish and expel them,
Yep, you're not saying anything that I haven't. I completely agree. It's pretty nuts. And I mean, there's a lot of good people who are Catholic.
Oh, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, if I'm a good person and I'm part of a religion and they're that hypocritical, I do one of two things. Mm-hmm. Either make them face facts and clean it up or exit, okay? You completely can't just be selective and go, I mean, it's insane. When you look at the amount of the abuse and how it was handled and the cover-up, if that was anything other than a church, every one of those people would be in prison and the keys would be thrown away. But can you imagine if that would have been the Campfire Girls or Boy Scouts or whatever?
Oh, gosh.
Or AYSO soccer? For some reason, people are afraid to touch religion. It's like, oh my God, we can't go there. Why?
Even though one of the primary of the tenets of this country is separation of church and state.
Exactly. How many times, remember when Mitt Romney ran for president? Oh my God, we can't elect a Mormon. I'm like, excuse me, church and state, separation? What part of that am I not understanding?
Yeah.
And no one has ever been elected president of this country who didn't claim that they weren't a practicing whatever, Protestant, Catholic, whatever.
Yeah, Kennedy was the first Catholic, I think, right?
Yes, he was.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I would love it if someone ran for president and won and said, I am non-religious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be awesome.
Yeah, there's a definitely a built-in expectation there,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
unfortunate.
they all pose with their Bible
Mm-hmm.
on the stairs of the church. Nothing could be funnier than frickin' Clinton doing that after what he did, and then that asswipe Trump standing in the church with an upside down Bible. If there's anyone who is the antithesis of religion, it's that heathen.
I feel like you and my dad would be really good friends. My dad has said almost the exact thing verbatim. So
Yeah, that's just, it doesn't make it 100% gospel. It's my opinion, but I'm pretty worldly and I've been around, and I call bullshit when I see it.
yeah, no, totally. I get it. I completely get it. And I think that's been like the big thing in sex ed is there's like this like fear of what I would really like to have heard in sex ed is an emphasis on pleasure, right? Like, I mean, you don't need to focus on that, right? Like, I get it. So the only way to make sure that you don't get pregnant, true, it's abstinence. That's the only 100% full
No,
effective
the only way
way.
to make sure you don't get pregnant is birth control. Because let me tell you what happens with people, and this is a proven fact. When they preach abstinent, a lot of teens start having anal sex, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
other stuff going, okay, well, that's ridiculous, okay? It's still sex.
It is still sex.
We
And
need to
oral sex is still sex.
That's exactly. Oral sex, according to Clinton, it wasn't, but it is. The thing that I have to laugh is anytime you make something the forbidden fruit or you
100%.
literally kind of romanticize it by going, oh my God, don't go there, people are more curious to go there. What you need to do is have a realistic, frank talk and explain to people that you're going to have natural urges.
Mhm.
When people reach their 16, 17, 18 years, sometimes earlier,
Definitely
your
earlier.
hormones start raging. The idea of abstinence is absolutely laughable.
Oh, it's asinine.
And by preaching abstinence, here's what happens. A guy and a girl start dating. They've been dating, and they go, oh my God, if we go get birth control, that means that we're planning this, and that means that we're sinning.
Mhm.
But if it just happens in the spur of the moment, then that means, oh, it just happened, and it's, it wasn't pre-planned. We don't feel as guilty. But then you're not prepared for disease control. You're not prepared for pregnancy prevention and everything else. Why don't we realistically say sex is a normal part of life?
Yep.
When you get into a relationship, it's going to happen.
Mhm.
Here's what you need to do. Number one, to make it pleasurable. Number two, to be safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I never thought about the fact that like people might assume that if you get birth control, then like, oh, it's pre-planned or whatever. That's actually a really good point.
No, it is.
I
I read a study one time that a lot of teenage pregnancies come about because they thought if they went and got birth control that they would be, sinning because they were planning on having sex. I'm far from 18. I'm 64 now. But I remember between the ages of 15 and probably 30, if I was in a position of making out with someone, one way or another, we're having sex, okay? It's like at a certain point, you're like, the drive is so strong, you know what I mean? That you're not going to be thinking, no, I guess we better not.
Yeah. I think in most cases that's true.
Yeah.
Unless it's
And
like
as long as your partner is consenting,
exactly, yeah,
then you're good to go. And you're not going to go, well, you're going to hopefully go, well, I'll pull out, knowing that, first of all, that's not a fail-safe. And second of all, a lot of people that are younger don't have the ejaculatory control of someone who's had sex for a number of years and is older, and the chance of successfully pulling out are not as great.
Yep. No, totally. And I think that's like such a interesting point too. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with friends of mine and, they'll tell me that they hooked up with somebody or whatever. And, I'll know that they're on birth control, but I'll ask, did you use protection? And they're like, well, I'm on birth control. And I'm like, I feel like for women, or people who have like uteruses, there's such a focus on pregnancy.
Yeah.
Which like there are other things that can happen.
There are other things that are a lot more deadly. There are things that you can get and you'll never get rid of. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So like, I don't understand why there's such a focus on like pregnancy as the thing to worry about when there's so many other things out there. But
for me, I'm at an age right now where I don't have sexual relations. I don't have intimacy with someone I don't know. And if
Yeah.
I get into a committed relationship, I make sure we're both tested
Yep.
because at my age, I've, had a vasectomy, so I don't need to use birth control because I can't get someone pregnant. And I like oral sex and I like the full gamut of
Mm-hmm.
all the smorgasbord that's available sexually. And I find it extremely difficult to wear condoms. So my way around that is to make sure I get into a committed relationship that we both are comfortable, it's exclusive, we
Yep.
both are completely tested, and we can literally feel like, okay, we don't need to
Yeah.
do that. But that's the mature way to do it.
It is. It is. Yeah, that's how I've always been, even, before I was having sex. I was like that.
Yeah,
That's always my mentality.
to me, there's nothing in the world worth getting a disease you can't get rid of, and it's going to be like a scarlet letter to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
No.
No.
And I don't want to be parts of abortions when I was younger. That's why I was careful.
Mhm.
I believe there's a time and place, and the idea of repealing Roe versus Wade is asinine to me. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a woman's right. By the same token, I think you should do everything possible to make it a moot point because you're not
Sure.
getting pregnant.
It shouldn't be a first line of birth control.
It should never be a first line of birth
Mhm.
control.
Yep.
But part of the problem is you have the same people that are anti-abortion. They're the same jackasses that don't want condoms made readily available.
I know.
They don't want sex education. It's like, wait a second. You're part of the problem is
I
why there's so
know.
many unwanted pregnancies. Now you're saying you have to bring them to term. You have to, have the
But then as
children.
soon as they're born, they don't give a shit anymore.
No, then as soon as they're born, they're like, we don't want any kind of funding for unwed mothers. We don't want
Right.
any child. It's like that group to me is so hypocritical and so backward ass. They're disgusting.
Yep. I mean, you're not going to get any. I'm not going to defend that. So
You can't defend the indefensible.
I mean, it's just a lack of logic at a certain
It's
point, right?
absolute.
So,
It's hypocritical, and it does. It just defies logic.
yeah. No, absolutely. I guess like that's been like such a big thing too. Like this breach of religion and sex, and how there's this idea that it should be controlled, when in reality the best way to make sure that people aren't having, like, okay, so like for example, right? Take me for example. I started masturbating really early. Like I was like 3 years old. I was really, really little.
Wow, that
And
is pretty early.
yeah, I mean, especially for like a girl, right? So
Yeah.
I called it pushing my button. I don't know if listeners know this or not, but this is fun facts about me.
I've heard
Um,
that flicking the bean, flicking.
yeah. There's different. But
Now,
I was
were
like,
you able to have an orgasm, or you just knew it felt good?
I was able to, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a like certain amount of pressure, and then like this like kind of like waterfall feeling, I guess, is all that I can describe it as. And I started doing it really early. And because I did it so early, that's actually a indicator that you've been abused if you do that.
Yes.
So, I had to go to like a psychiatrist and all of that stuff. And, as far as I know, I'm in the clear. They didn't find anything,
Yeah.
suspect. I just am who I am.
No, you found something that was pleasurable made by accident. And I guarantee
Exactly.
you, that's why if I was a woman and capable of having multiple orgasms, I don't think I'd even ever get dressed in the morning. You know what I mean? I would just sit around and masturbate and have my partner as many times as he was up for it during the day. I'd be dangerous. I don't want to say
it
when I
can be.
turned 13 or 14 that, I masturbated a lot, but my nickname was the Palm Pilot. They didn't have electronic devices.
Okay. No, that's great. I mean, but I guess that's what I mean is that, so my parents were really good at, okay, Rachel, like, this is something that is completely okay to do. It's completely normal to do. We don't do it in public, because that was my issue, is I just was anywhere and everywhere. Was conversations
that is freaking hilarious.
with my teachers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so like I'm also obsessive compulsive.
Yeah.
So my compulsion, like oh God, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast. People who know me know it though. Like however old I was, that's how many times I had to do it a day.
Wow. I'm
So
64. Can you imagine?
so I ended up getting medicated for it at a certain point. But yeah, I mean when I was like 9 years old,
Educated. I think you should have been celebrated. I think you should have the Guinness Book of World Records.
I think that's the best story that I can come up with
That is hilarious.
why I am who I am.
Tiger Woods was good at golf. They put him on the Mike Douglas show when he was 4. You know what I mean?
But I guess my point is like my parents, like, were really chill about it. And
That's so awesome. My parents would have had me locked in a psycho ward.
no, my parents were like, you know what, like, we're really glad that you were able to. I mean, I think my dad was probably freaked out by it because I was his first child and I'm a daughter, and he
Yeah.
grew up with brothers. Like, he just was like, I don't know how to deal with
He went,
this.
why couldn't I have had another son?
But my mom was very chill about it, and she told me about sex when I was, I think, 8 or 9, and
Yeah.
and I remember her telling me, I would prefer that you waited till marriage, but if you find yourself in a position where you feel like that's not going to happen, I would like it if you would come to me and we can talk about how you can do it safely.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, why the fuck would I want somebody to like shove something inside of me? That sounds awful.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would anybody
solo right now? You know what I mean?
I was like, why would anybody want that? And my mom was like, I remember very distinctly, I was 8 years old. And my mom was like, it feels like pushing your button. And I went, definitely not waiting till marriage. Absolutely not. Under no circumstances.
Yes, exactly.
But I did wait until I was almost 20 years old.
No way.
Yeah, because I knew that I was going to have and I probably I don't know, could even wait longer. I knew I was going to have such a strong sex drive and that I was going to be potentially out of control. And I also just was very mistrusting of men, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And I just was I waited. And so because my parents educated me that way, I actually waited longer than most of my peers.
Yeah, you didn't have
differently.
forbidden fruit. Oh my God, don't do this under any circumstances.
Exactly.
Made you even that much more curious.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I remember
I waited.
when I was 15, I worked at a country club as a busboy. My mom worked as a waitress. And for some reason, some 21-year-old waitress took a fancy to me and decided she was going to break me in sexually.
Yes, those.
I want to thank her to this day. But we ended up getting busted because at first would go in her car and would drive 3-4 miles away and park in some secluded place. And then we start getting more adventuresome, and then, would take a break and run out in her car and get it on,
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately the night watchman caught us. And I remember my mom going, there's something wrong with you. We got to send you to counseling. I'm like, no, actually you and dad ought to try this. It actually feels really good. Never saw much affection between mom and dad. So.
No, I mean, I think you're completely right that we need to establish that it's normal. And part of sex education should be that not only is it normal, it should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it, there's a safe way of doing it. So the fact of the matter is you're going to do it at some point, right?
Without a doubt. Put it this way, if you don't do it, it's only because you can't find anyone to do it with, okay? The only way you're not going to is if you're so obnoxious or so unattractive that no one will actually sleep with you, okay?
Yeah, it's just I don't really understand it either. But I mean, that's fascinating too, just to know that you didn't come from, this background of sexual wellness. And then, you just kind of were thrown into. So I guess kind of deviating from that there, how did you started with the one product, which was the spray, right?
The male delay spray. And
which is it's kind of like Viagra, but not a pill, right? It's external.
It's a spray, but it's not. Viagra gives you an erection if you're impotent and can't get an erection.
Okay.
What our initial product, which is the Promescent delay spray, it allows men to last longer. Believe it or not, premature ejaculation is a bigger problem than erectile dysfunction.
I believe that. Yeah.
In fact, 15% of ED is misdiagnosed PE. Because if a man has chronic PE, meaning he ejaculates too early on a regular basis, he will eventually develop stage fright, or his psychologically, he knows that getting an erection leads to an unsatisfactory conclusion. so he won't be able to get an erection. So it's very prevalent. And another fact that will amaze you is that let's step out of the realm of PE and talk about the average healthy male and the average healthy female. The average healthy male lasts 5 minutes of 42 seconds of penetration or thrusting during intercourse. The average female takes 18 minutes of thrusting to achieve climax. So
which is why you make sure that she orgasms once or twice before you even move on to penetration. Why do people not understand
what
this?
I tell people all the time is, and one of the reasons we develop more products, we developed a female arousal gel, which helps the woman, lubricate and helps a woman get ready quicker. We have these VitaFlux products, which increase libido of females. And one of the things when I do podcasts and I do serious radio interviews, I tell people, men, especially men who have a quick trigger, I said, put one in the bank before you get started. They go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I go, give your partner at least one orgasm prior to starting intercourse. It can be orally, it can be digitally, it can be with a vibrator, whatever. But that lessens the anxiety. If you know your partner's already had at least one orgasm, then you don't have this feeling immediately upon entering a woman like, oh my God, I hope I can last long enough. Oh my God, I hope I can give her an orgasm. You know she's already had one. So that takes the level of anxiety down right off the bat and allows you to perform without so much angst and without so much anxiety. So
100%.
I tell men, be more creative, be a better lover. Get your partner off orally, get your partner off with your fingers digitally, get your partner off with a vibrator. Just get her off even prior to beginning, because the more orgasms your partner has and the more intense those orgasms are, the better she's going to treat you and the more focused she's going to be in making sure you're sexually satisfied.
I literally gave this advice to a stranger on Reddit a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you in the line at grocery line at Whole Foods, or you were?
Well, no, I was on Reddit. Somebody posted. I mean, that would not be beyond me to just hear part of a conversation and be like, "Have you heard of?" I mean, my Uber drivers either love me or hate me.
You and I are twin brother and sister. I swear to God. But see, I don't know now. People know what you do, and they'll come up to you in the most random situations, start asking you questions.
Oh, that's my dream. I'm so jealous that you actually have that.
Oh, I get it all the time. I go to my health club. I live in a really nice area. We have this little private health club for all members. I go in there, someone will come up to me and go, hey, I saw, you had this new lube on your site. My wife is kind of dry. And I'm like, really? That's kind of an awkward talk in between sets on the bench press here, But hey, I'm here to answer questions. And it's fascinating to me how many people really want to talk about sex, but they want to do it in a comfortable setting.
Yep.
And I find that I have friends, couples, that the husband will talk to me, the wife will talk, but they feel uncomfortable talking in front of one another. Mm-hmm. I go, what am I, a therapist? Okay. Yep. It's I've always just been open, and I've always gone by the approach, talk to your partner, that communication is one of the most, if not the most important sexual tool in your little tool bag.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people don't believe that. I'm a bit of a voyeur to begin with, so this isn't too surprising. But when I'm early on in a relationship, I always like my partner to masturbate for me.
Dude, it's such a good, if you're going to be doing it, I like that too. It's show me how you like this to be done and teach me. That can be hot. It can be hot.
Think about this for 1 second. Okay, you're right. Number one, it's incredibly hot. I mean, I have to admit, it's educational, but the first thing is it's freaking hot as hell. Okay, that's number one. Number two, men pretty much all like the same things. Okay. The next time I hear one of my friends go, you know what I really don't like? I don't like being blown. I'll go, that'll be the first time I've ever heard that, okay? Most men literally like majority of the same things. But as a man, as a single man, you could be with a woman and you're dating a woman and she's like, I have a very sensitive clitoris. My ball is extremely sensitive. I don't like direct touch, maybe light touch in the ear. Okay, great. The next woman you date, she's like, okay, I don't have any sensitivity whatsoever. I need direct, very vigorous stimulation. Get a jackhammer and put some sandpaper on the end of it and hit me right on the and I'm like, could this possibly be the same species, the same gender as this last person I dated? Okay. what
Go
they
figure.
desire, what feels good to them is totally different. So I explained to them, because sometimes when you go, I want you to masturbate, they're like, what? I'm like, listen, okay, I can fumble around the next 2 to 3 weeks and figure out what it is you like, or you can just show me and we can cut right to the chase, because generally when people masturbate, they do exactly what feels the best to them, obviously.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's going to be educational. I don't really throw out that I enjoy it, and it's fucking hot as hell too. And I keep that to myself because I want to make him feel like I'm Gandhi feeding the poor. Oh, he's so sensitive. Look at him trying to educate himself. In reality, I'm like, oh, this is so hot. But
You're like, this is selfish, but I'm glad that you think
exactly. This is selfish, but I'm going to wrap it in a selfless bow. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So that you think I'm doing this for your benefit. But it really is something that is part of getting to understand your partner, getting to understand your lover, and getting quickly to the point where you know what she likes.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And I would even say that, like, with guys, it's kind of different too. Like, some guys like more pressure. Like, if you're using your hands, they want more action down at the base. That's where like it is. Or like
absolutely.
some guys just like the head though. Like
Yes.
it's more up there. So it really depends. Like
That's right. It does depend. But like I said, most guys, in fact, everyone I've ever known go, oh, I love being blown. But
yeah, I've never met anybody
there are women that are like very uncomfortable with oral sex. A lot of it has to do, they're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm clean. I don't know if I have a smell. I don't, you know what I mean? And some of them, I don't know if whether it's religious or just uptight. There are other women that go, I climax much better through oral sex than I do through intercourse.
No, that's true. Only I think it's like 25% of women can actually orgasm through penetration.
Absolutely. So as a man, it's important that you understand, you know, exactly what makes your woman tick. That's why when certain guys go, oh, this is my patented move. I'm like, really? Okay.
It's not gonna necessarily work.
Yeah, it's going to not work on a certain amount of people. Why don't you have a patented move for each partner that you end up with over the course of your lifetime that is specifically designed to pleasure that person?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then they can be like, hey, do that thing that you do. I like that thing.
Yeah, you know that little trick you had?
Good.
Bring that out of the toolbox. Fire that up.
Well, I guess that kind of makes me think, let's put it on the record now. Vaginas, I think that a lot of women have been told very early in life that vaginas smell bad or blah, blah. And so that they're very aware of whatever it is. But vaginas, they're a self-cleaning mechanism much of the time. And you are going to be able to, it's most guys like the smell of a vagina. Like, they're not going to complain about being down there. And if they don't, hopefully if there's something like really wrong,
They'll mention it. Say, hey,
they'll mention it.
Amiss here. I've been single, like I said, my whole life, and I've, dated pretty heavily. There's only been one instance in my life where I ever had a woman's vagina literally go, not going there.
Exactly. It's not.
And the funny part was she was a nurse practitioner. So it wasn't like ignorance. It was just, I think, body chemistry,
Yeah. No, sometimes that happens. It's just, I think it's totally, sometimes it just doesn't gel, and go figure. But I guess, like, you do have, though. I mean, I kind of want to get into like some of the products that the brand deals with. I thought it was really funny that, I took the quiz yesterday, just like out of curiosity, and got 2 of the products that I like were my 2 favorite products. So,
which are they?
It's the female arousal gel and the Aloe Lube.
They're both great products.
Yeah.
The female arousal gel is really interesting. It's not a revolutionary product. It's an evolutionary product. Mm-hmm. It makes sense because it's emollients, and then it has kind of a licorice, kind of a warming mechanism.
Yep.
And so what it does is it just warms the area where you apply it. So we tell women a little dab on the clitoris, and, lightly rub it into the vulva. So I do this podcast, these 2 swinger gals, and it's called 2 Wild Orchids. So I've been on it like 3 times. So the last time on the show, the younger one says to me, guess what I'm wearing? And I'm like, I don't know, you have on a blue blazer and kind of a cream colored sweater. No, guess what I'm wearing? And I'm like,
Oh.
what do you mean? She goes, down below. And I go, well, I can't see you from the waist down. And then I started laughing because the two of them were sitting by this desk. I said, knowing you, you probably have nothing on. She starts laughing. She goes, no. She goes, every morning now. She goes, I put a little dab of women's arousal gel on. I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, at lunchtime, I go in and I maybe dab up again. She goes, it makes me feel by the time I get home like I've had foreplay for 8 hours all day. She goes, because I feel tingly and I feel warm. By the time I get home, I just can't wait to jump on my partner. I'm like, oh my God, I never thought about that, you know?
That sounds
And
amazing. Yeah.
it's an amazing product. A lot of people love that product because let's face it, that we just talked about how there's that arousal gap between men and women.
Yep.
You can use something to shorten that time frame and get you, you know, warm and wet sooner. Why not do that?
Totally. Absolutely. Like they're only there to help. I mean,
It's something that you can try. If you don't like it, we have a full 60-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee. So you can't have a lower risk proposition, you know?
absolutely.
And it's a great product. It works for about 80% of people. But if you're in the 20% that it doesn't work for, then you don't have to use it, you know?
Yeah, no problem.
But it's been a successful product for us. And it's something that, you know, Emily Moore's Sex with Emily.
Yes.
I've been on her show like 8 times. She loves us and she uses it and loves the product. And that really helped put us on the map. And it's one of those products that, you know, I said, well, there's probably a market for this, but I was shocked at how big the market is because we have a lot of men that buy it for their women.
Oh, gentlemen.
Yes.
How?
Well, one of the things we've done is we've tried to educate. You know, when you go to our site, I took some heat for this early on. People saw our website. They're like, are you a university educational site or are you trying to sell product? Because what everyone else does, they have a sales funnel. As soon as you go on, buy, buy. All they want to do is buy the product. What I want to do when you come to my site is I want you to buy the right product for the right reasons, and I want you to use it correctly. That way, you become a repeat customer and you're happy. Why would I want to have 100,000 people come to my site and 99,000 of them are disappointed and never come back? I'd rather have 10,000 people come to my site, all be happy, all become regular customers, and all tell their friends about us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you go to our site, you'll see clinical trials, you'll see studies, you'll see physician testimonials.
You have an entire blog too, which is just fun. I loved that. That was one of my
our
favorite parts
blog?
of the website. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my God. We have every topic under the sun.
It's fantastic.
Prostate milking, pegging, edging, some of the stuff. I'm like, what's that? Okay, I'm like reading it.
No, I mean, I completely agree. What is the point of giving these products if you're not instructing people how to use them? And not only instructing in a physical sense, but instructing in an emotional sense.
You want to set the expectations realistically. We have people come on our site and we have this interactive chat feature and they'll go, I last 30 seconds. If I use your product, will I last 30 minutes? I'm like, no. If you were lasting 10 minutes, then you might last 30 minutes. It's all a function of how long you last to begin with, how much improvement you're going to have, you know? But you're not going to go from 30 seconds to 30 minutes, and we don't want people thinking that.
Yeah.
So part of our education is setting the expectations realistically.
And like, I'll just come out and say it, like, my ideal amount of time for penetration is not 30 minutes.
No.
Like, my ideal time for penetration is about 10 minutes, and I'd rather have like 45 minutes of like making out and foreplay before that.
I tell people all the time, if you are lasting more than 10 or 15 minutes and you go, I need to last longer, you better look at your technique before you look at how long you're lasting. Because if you're doing something wrong, you can last an hour and a half and you're still not going to pleasure your partner. And at a certain point, you cross the line from pleasure to punishment, okay? It's not punishing your partner, it's pleasuring your partner.
Exactly, yeah. Well, what can women do to be, more supportive of I've dealt with men who, I guess usually most of the time it's what we call a whiskey dick. But like I've dealt with that before, and I like to think that I'm a pretty good partner who just, for me, like sex doesn't necessarily have to be about the end goal, right? Like it's about the connecting of experience. It's about connecting with my partner and just having fun and feeling good. And
Feeling
so,
connected, feeling close, feeling in.
yeah,
That we've lost that. So many people now think sex is an Olympic event. Like you have
I
the
know.
judges are holding up 9.8, 9.7. Get out of that mindset and get in the mindset of I want to experience something very pleasurable with someone I care for.
And I think a lot of people, like I think a lot of women take it personally too. If a guy, isn't staying hard, they think that it's a reflection of them. And like I cannot stress enough how untrue that
It's not
is.
true at all.
Yeah.
There's this myth out there that if a guy prematurely or rapidly ejaculates, or if a guy loses his erection, that means he's not into you.
That's
Trust me,
false.
there's nothing further from the truth. The guy wants nothing more than the worst way than to satisfy you.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's a physiological thing that he needs to seek help with a urologist or a therapist, depending upon if it's mental or physical, and address it. And that's where we come into play. We're in the protocol of 2,200 urologists who recommend us. We have a huge following in the medical community because we took time, we did it right. We use pharmaceutical grade ingredients. We manufacture under pharmaceutical grade manufacturing. And we put a lot of time and effort into clinical trials, clinical studies. We're trying to be a resource to people to allow them to have better intimacy, not just slinging a bunch of shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, these aren't gas station boner pills. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This stuff is science and it works. But it's important that you take the time to read why it works, to get realistic expectations, to optimize it and use it correctly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I always say that my goal of podcast, I'm like better orgasms, not necessarily more orgasms, just like better orgasms, better
You don't
communication,
need to
which
have
leads
as
to
many
better
if you're high
orgasms.
quality.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that we've done really, really well with, we have a nitric oxide product. It's called VitaFlux for men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And let me give you a brief explanation of how that works and why it's so beneficial. And it has non-sexual benefits as well. So it's all about promoting blood flow. Obviously, you get more blood flow if you're a man. You get better libido and you get higher quality erections. If you get more blood flow and you're a female, you get aroused quicker and you have more intense orgasms.
Yep, your clitoris does get bigger. It's a little penis.
It's exactly what it is. If you actually took the clitoris out of the body, you look at it, it is like a penis. It's gigantic. Yep. All you see is the little end of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But it's a much bigger organ. So what this product does, it's a combination of L-citrulline, L-arginine, and L-carnitine, 3 very naturally occurring amino acids along with magnesium and zinc. So it increases blood flow. One of the non-sexual benefits of increased blood flow is you recover better from soreness and workouts and everything else. That's how you recover, getting oxygenated rich blood into the area. Mm-hmm. So it promotes that, which is obviously very positive. In everybody's body, you have an epithelial layer covering every artery and every vein in your body. The epithelial layer, what it is meant to do is when you're young, it's very supple. So it keeps bad stuff out. It keeps out viruses, bacteria, that type of stuff, and allows vitamins, minerals, and hormones to flow in. So it's this protective sheath that keeps bad stuff out, allows good stuff in. When most people reach their mid-30s, the epithelial layer begins to harden. When it hardens, it gets even better at keeping bad stuff out, viruses and bacteria. Unfortunately, it gets better at keeping good stuff out. Your hormone absorption goes down. Your vitamins and minerals have a hard time absorbing. That's why a lot of men after mid-30s have every year 0.5% of body fat, and they lose 0.75% of muscle every year. Same thing with women. When women, their hormone absorption slows down, they lose the ability to naturally lubricate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they have to use a lot more outside lubrication.
And there's no shame in that. Let's establish that right now.
None. But let me tell you a story that happened to me and just shows you how crazy this is. So VitaFlux softens the epithelial layer.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows better hormone absorption. It allows, vitamins, minerals. And so you feel a higher degree of vitality. You feel better libido, and women begin to moisturize again after having lost some of that ability to moisturize. So to put this into perspective, 4 years ago, I was dating a gal. I was 60 and she was 48.
Mm-hmm.
Now here I am rhapsodizing. I'm very well aware that this is what happens and this is what causes women to lose the ability to moisturize. So we've been dating for 3 years, and she was actually starting to go through menopause. And we would be intimate, and I would reach down and I'd go, oh my God, she's dry. She must not be turned on. Oh my God, she's not desiring me.
Nope.
I do this for a living, and I am fully aware of what was happening. And it was still in my head that I wasn't, attractive, and I wasn't turning her on. And I'm like, wait a second. I know better than that. And I'm still falling into that trap, And so this is right around the time we developed VitaFlux. She started taking it, and she started to moisturize again. And so one day we were sitting there talking. She goes, Jeff, I got to tell you something. She goes, I love the product because of the libido enhancement, but more than anything, I love the fact that I've got my ability to naturally lubricate back. And I go, yeah. And I told her, I said, listen, I felt so guilty. I remember at one point I started thinking, oh, you're not really turned on. She goes, let me tell you something. Even though I knew there was no difference, I was completely turned on. I was becoming self-conscious, thinking you were thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I go, doesn't that just show you that even though we're both, she was a nurse practitioner, we were both educated, we were both very aware of what was happening, it still played an effect,
Sex is so personal.
It's so personal. So it's important for women to, if they can, to naturally lubricate so that, number one, they feel better about themselves.
Sure.
When they feel turned on, there's physical evidence of it, so they don't have to feel like, oh my God, my partner thinks I'm not attracted to him. It's good for guys so they can feel like, oh my God, I'm turning my woman on,
Exactly.
And it just feels unnatural when you have a tub of lubrication next to the bed. You know what I mean? But when you're older, that's necessary at some point.
Yeah. That's completely, I mean, I know that like I had a partner once, and it wasn't happening. And I suggested lube, and he guffawed at me and just was like, oh, I'm not doing a good job. And then, we tried the lube, and he never looked back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what I find? So many products, like we have a lot of men who've actually confessed to us and written us letters and said, I didn't really think I needed a male delay spray. But, I was on your site. I'm buying condoms. I'm buying lube. I'm buying VitaFlux. I go, well, I'll just buy some. What the hell? And they go, even though I was lasting long enough for my partner, the last 2 to 3 minutes, I was walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
There's like a little guy on my shoulder going, no, not yet. Oh, my God, she hasn't climaxed yet.
Think about your grandma. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I'm thinking about my grandmother naked. I'm thinking about soccer scores. I'm thinking about baseball statistics. Oh, my God, she's going reverse cowgirl. I can't last in that position. Oh, my God. And they go, once I used it, I was like, this is just so relaxing. It takes one less, anxiety point out of the equation. It allows me to relax. And I tell people, having Promescent, if you're a man, is like having fire insurance. You can go, I don't think I'm going to have a fire, okay? I'm going to save the $40 a month and not get fire insurance for my house. You come home from dinner one night, your house is burning down. You can't call the insurance company and go, hey, I need to put some fire insurance on. They go, what is that? I smell burning in the background. Oh, it's my house.
Exactly.
So if all of a sudden you're with your partner and you're thrusting and you go, oh my God, this is 30 seconds in, I'm about to ejaculate. You can't go, let me run to the store and get some Promescent. Little late for that there, my man,
So I want a TV ad like that. I mean, they never run it, but that's a fantastic idea for an ad.
That is a good idea. That is a great idea.
Right? I mean, take it and run with it.
Yeah.
But I guess really quickly before we wrap up, like kind of just tell me a little bit about the other products that you offer. We've talked about the vitamins, we've talked about the female arousal gel, we've talked about the spray. What else do you got?
we have these premature ejaculation wipes.
Okay.
They're not quite as effective as the spray, but sometimes people go, I'm going to a club tonight. I'm going just to my girlfriend's for the evening. I don't want to carry a little, even though the bottle, the small one, fits in the change pocket of your jeans. Sometimes people are just uncomfortable. We have these PE wipes where it's just a little like pouch that has a wipe in it. And those have been very, very successful. So we kind of tell people it's the home and away. You put the Promescent spray on your bedside, on your end table or your bathroom counter, and then you have the little wipes that are, portable when you're going somewhere. We have massage oils that have been very successful. We have condoms that have been very successful. I don't really think those are next generation products. They're not I don't call them our foundational products. Those are great that you don't have to go after you go here, it goes somewhere else. The three core products that we have are, we're adding some fourth, but the three core products we have are the female arousal gel, the VitaFlux, and the delay spray. They are clearly the best of breed. They are clearly a cut above anything else out there, and they are great. Now, if you want to get lubes, and our organic aloe vera lube is superb. It really is good. But I'd be amiss to tell you that there weren't a lot of good lubes out there. There really are. We have one of the best, but it's not clearly head and shoulders. Like our other products are the best out there. They're good. We added a line of vibrators, and oh my God, they took off immediately. We've tried to educate a lot of men, because we have a lot of men in our database, that listen, it doesn't mean that there's something lacking. It doesn't mean that you're missing something if you incorporate a vibrator into your love life. In fact, it means that you're sensitive to your partner's needs and you want her to have as many orgasms. So we've been extremely successful with our vibrators and cock rings and stuff like that. They've been very, very successful. That will soon, I believe, be our fourth breakthrough product. That business is mushrooming.
Oh my gosh. You're doing the Lord's work. I remember the first time that a guy suggested bringing a vibrator, and I almost cried. I was so happy.
I think in my room, I call it my combination bedroom laboratory. You know what I mean? I think I have 30 vibrators now, because when we were out there evaluating, everyone goes, here, try this line, try that line. I'm like, okay, send it over. When I was 51, 13 years ago, I bought a Sybian machine. Are you familiar with a Sybian machine?
No. You've
never seen a Sybian machine?
I mean, maybe I've seen it, but I don't know what it's called.
It looks like a saddle.
Yes.
And you have a remote control. And I had a gal that I had started dating, and we first started dating. It was like the second date, and we hadn't been intimate yet, and we were making out. She goes, I'm not ready yet, and whatever. And I go, when's the last time you were intimate? She goes, like a year and a half ago. I'm like, you must have the most awesome array of power tools known to mankind. She started laughing. She goes, I have a Sybian machine. I'm like, what's that? She goes, it's one of those things they have on Howard Stern. I go, I don't listen, or I don't watch Howard Stern. I have no idea what you're talking about. And she goes, if you're a good boy, and we, progress, and I'll allow you to, use the Sybian machine on me. And I'm like, okay, great. I went home and Googled it. I'm like, I'm going to be a very good boy.
Like,
okay,
absolutely. Best.
I want to make sure I earn enough points to get in there with the Sybian, And it was, there's a lot of women that literally joke that once they get a Sybian machine, they don't need a boyfriend anymore.
Sure.
Because it allows you to literally control first of all, it comes with a bunch of attachments. What girth, what size, whatever attachment, you can make it go side to side, up and down, faster, slower, you control everything. It literally is like playing a video game.
Hey, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Now, I've never done this, but they're expensive. They cost like $3,000.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, and if you have one, you can put your address and all your contact info online, and women will buy an attachment who can't afford a Sybian, and they'll come over and allow you to, they'll come over your house, and if you let them use it, they'll let you watch them. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know if I want a stranger coming into my house. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. That's insane. I mean, that's fantastic, but that's insane.
It's insane.
I couldn't do it, but.
No, I mean, I'm like, I should have got that when I was 25. I might have been a lot more up. You know what I mean? At 64, that would be creepy. Okay, you mean Grandpa's going to watch me over here? Oh, God.
Oh my God. You've been an absolute hoot. Thank you so much. I mean, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can, I mean, I already mentioned, I shouted
We're
out
all
Target.
over the place, but here's what I tell people. Always start at our website for this reason. That's where you find the educational materials. That's where you find the tutorials, the blogs, the doctor testimonials, the videos on how to use the product, the clinical trials. So it's Promescent, Promescent, www.promescent.com. Start there. Okay, that's the most important thing. If you decide to buy it there, it's free shipping. We ship 7 days a week. We really and truly have tried to create like an Amazon-like experience. We have a full money-back guarantee. We ship 7 days a week. There's no charge for shipping, so it's very easy. If you want to get it that day, we're available at Target. We're available at certain GNC stores. We're available at certain Walmart stores. We're obviously on Amazon. We're on eBay. So there's a number of places where you can get the product, but start at the website so that you will buy the right product for the right reason and you'll use it correctly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's been a blast. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. No, believe me, a good podcast, I always say this to people, I get off and I forget it was a podcast. I just feel like I'm talking to a friend, colleague, and that's exactly how I feel.
Good. That's my goal.
Oh, yeah, this was a podcast.
Like, oh, yeah, people are going to listen to this, right?
Let me tell you, I always encourage people to follow me because if you send me a message, you send me an email, you send me a thing through Twitter, I answer every single question, reply that you send me. So my Twitter is Jeff Abraham 111, JeffAbraham. My Instagram is Jeff Abraham 111. If you look on Facebook, it's just Jeff Abraham. So any one of those. My email address is jeff.abraham@promescent.com. I encourage people, if they have questions, if they have comments, reach out to me directly.
Amazing. Fantastic customer service.
It's, I retired once. I came out of retirement to run this company. So obviously I was already set for life. I don't need this. I'm doing this because I want to do this. That I really feel to a certain degree we're doing God's work. There's too many people that keep people repressed, that they really inhibit people's sexuality and exploration and growth. And that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. Yeah. No one should have a right to decide how someone else uses their body, what type of pleasure they have. As long as it's between a consenting adult or as long as you're by yourself, there should be nothing off limits or nothing taboo.
Absolutely.
We're all about intimacy. When you look at our website, when you look at everything, it's not about anything other than our logo, our tagline is better in bed. We want you to have better intimacy, higher degree of intimacy with you and your partner. We tell people, put the focus on your partner. I wish I was joking, but I'm not. We compete with products that are named Do Me Long and Hard, Stud 100. I'm like, really? Could you be any less class?
Yeah.
It has this testosterone, knuckle dragging, caveman kind of a thing. We compete with gas station boner pills that are laced with, sildenafil, which is Viagra, which is highly dangerous. We are pharmaceutical grade ingredients in a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility with clinical trials. This company and these products were developed through science and they work, and we're proud of them and we stand behind them.
Yeah, amazing. And you've sold me, so I'll be a customer for life now too.
I appreciate it. And we forge relationships. If we do podcasts and everything, this is the beginning. We'll be in touch. And, you have special promos, you want to do stuff, you ever, have any, requests, just let us know. We believe in supporting those who help us reach, people. Because if we do an ad roll, if we do, one of these digital ads, people go, oh, another one of those companies. It's through venues like this we have a chance to explain who we are and what we do that make us successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And personality can make all the difference.
Makes all the difference. Passion. Mm-hmm. People go, whoa, that guy truly believes in this.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a blast. Yeah, I would love to get you back on again to talk about some other stuff. Why not, right?
There's some things coming down the pike. Believe me, you'll be amazed. And on all fronts, and we will stay in touch.
Sounds good.
I promise you, this is the beginning of a mutually beneficial, long-lasting relationship.
Oh, that makes me so happy. All right, and listeners, thank you for listening. This has been Wine, Dine, and 69. I'm your host, Rachel Dalton, and let's keep talking.